Guys, welcome to the I CVille Show. It's Jerry Miller. It's great to be with you on a Tuesday across Charlottesville and Central Virginia. A lot we're going to cover with two gentlemen that I think need absolutely no introduction. Adam Healey, the interim executive director of the Charlottesville Albemarle Convention and Visitors Bureau, will join us here shortly, along with my good buddy Peter Castiglione, co-owner of Maya Restaurant and one of the key influencers in the Restaurant, Lodging, and Tourism Association here locally. He's going to offer his perspective along with Adam Healey. A lot we're going to cover. We have a new campaign for Charlottesville, Albemarle County, and Central Virginia that's going to help change the conversation from a regional and national standpoint. Adam Healey, instrumental in putting this campaign together in, I think, a short 6 months, I believe. Adam Healey has done some very special things for Charlottesville and our community. Peter Castiglione's legacy absolutely tied to Maya Restaurant, but behind the scenes, one of the movers and shakers, one of the guys with balls and courage in Charlottesville and Central Virginia that's willing to stand up for restaurants across the board. Not a lot willing to do that. Peter is certainly one of them, which I respect and appreciate. Before we get to the fellas, let's thank some fine folks that make the program possible. First, Greenberry's Coffee. I want to thank Sean and Roxanne Simmons. 28 years ago, they had a beat-up Honda Civic. They had a willingness to bust their tails, and they had a dream of opening a craft coffee shop in Charlottesville when the only kind of coffee people were drinking was black coffee with maybe some milk and sugar. They opened this coffee shop in Barracks Road Shopping Center. Their roasting facility was in the McIntyre Office Park. Today, it's a global business with locations in Qatar, Japan, Saudi Arabia, soon to open in Portland, Oregon, Washington, D.C., Harrisonburg. It started here in Charlottesville. I CVille and VMV Brands, our businesses, their advertising agency of record. We are doing some beautiful things, and they are doing even more beautiful things. We salute you, Sean and Roxanne Simmons. The second I want to give some big-time props to is the good doctor, Scott Wagner of Scott Wagner Chiropractic and Sports Medicine. Who's got your back? Scotty Wagner of Scott Wagner Chiropractic and Sports Medicine has your back. Also, a client of ours, their advertising agency of record. That tagline, a couple of IPAs and some conversations with some pretty ladies, and next thing you know, we have a tagline of who's got your back. That's how advertising works, ladies and gentlemen. Scott Wagner, we certainly appreciate you on this program. Harris Tolber, our director, Judah Wickhauer, producer, Lauren Linsky upstairs running and monitoring the stream. Another producer on the program. We have 4 people very much tied to this show. All we ask is you like and share the stream. It's not asking too much. Harris Tolber, let's welcome the gentleman with the bird's eye view, and then let's talk the nitty gritty. I think first, why don't we say thank you, fellas, for joining us.
Thank you so much, Jerry, for having me here.
Great to have you.
Yeah.
Great to have you. Great to have you as well. This is going to be fun. These guys, they're cool dudes. They're cool dudes. We'll start with Adam Healey. You have been busting your tail for 6 months, and you didn't have to do this. You chose to do it because you care about Charlottesville and Albemarle County in Central Virginia. You got involved as the interim director of the Charlottesville Albemarle Convention and Visitors Bureau. Routinely, you have to deal with politicians. You deal with grief that oftentimes you don't when you're a CEO of a business and you can walk into a room and call the shots and say, this is what we're going to do. This situation is very different from things you've done in your past. I want to salute you. I think you've been an asset to the community, and the community is lucky to have you. And then B, I'm going to start open-ended. Congratulations on getting this new campaign approved. And give us an update on where we stand and what we can expect from this campaign.
Thank you so much, Jerry. I really appreciate that, those kind words. I'm excited because we finally, the creative process is not always a linear process, and it doesn't always work. We don't always move in a straight line, but I think that we ended up in a place where everyone can be very proud of what we have as a new advertising and marketing platform and campaign for Central Virginia and for Charlottesville and Albemarle County specifically. I've been working very closely with our ad agency, Clean, and this is basically an approved campaign now, which we're going to market. We had an advertising budget of about $200,000 for the next 3 months to put into this campaign, and at our last board meeting just last week, we were able to increase that budget to $350,000. The board approved that increased expenditure at my request, and so now we're going to be investing $350,000 over the next basically 3 months in this advertising campaign, which is focused on driving tourism and hospitality to the region. And I think that's especially important because we've basically been dark for the last 6 or so months. So I'd love to preview, really in a formal capacity for the first time ever, the new advertising campaign, if I could, for your viewers.
I love it. I love it. We'll get to that. We'll welcome Peter into the mix as well. We're going to showcase the campaign to Charlottesville and Central Virginia. He's kind enough to debut that campaign on this set, and we're truly grateful. Peter Castiglione, you may know him from Maya Restaurant. He works the front of the house of a restaurant like anyone I've never seen before. You're charming, you're intelligent, you're a conversationalist, you make people feel welcome at your restaurant. You have a great team, huge fan of Christian, huge fan of Ted Norris, huge fan of your Tuesday special, just huge fan of Maya.
Don't stop.
You got a great restaurant. He's one of the genius restaurateurs also. I'm going to give you some more props because I appreciate your business acumen, that actually owns his property as well. Few, if any, well, there are a few, also are their landlords. He's one of them, so he has business acumen. He's also one of the behind-the-scenes guys. Tourism, lodging, I always mess this acronym up. He's a board of directors. We'll start open-ended there. Talk to us about the organization you're a part of and how it influences the community and where we are from a tax standpoint as well.
The Virginia Restaurant Lodging Tourism Association is a group out of Richmond, and it basically works to stay on top of legislation that affects the restaurant and the lodging and the tourism industry. So we meet monthly, quarterly, go to Capitol Hill, work on things on the state level. But ultimately, it trickles down to what happens on the city level and on the county level. This is where things get done, and this is where taxes get raised and don't. And this is where cities like Charlottesville can either learn to grow, become better at what we do, become more transparent about our budget processes, which I'm going to talk to you a little bit about today.
I'm excited to learn about that. I'm just going to open this dialogue up so you guys don't wait for me to throw questions to you. If you have a conversation or a topic you want to get in based on what Peter's saying, I will get out of the way. We have a number of folks on the feed: Corbin Snow, CEO of Snow's Garden Center; Michael Buchensky, Fletcher Stevens, Gilly Garth, Catherine Matthews from Iron Pavels and Coffee, Walter Davis Hall, Peyton Alley, people watching all across Central Virginia as we speak. I'll throw this to you and then you jump in. How does the VRLTA integrate or work hand in hand? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I'm the dummy, you guys are the experts. With the CACVB, I would think these organizations should somehow work in concert just from a common sense standpoint. Perhaps they do, perhaps they don't. The show is yours, sir.
Yeah, one of our board of directors is Roy Van Dorn, and he works directly with the CACVB and with the lodging industry. I'm on the restaurant side of things, and so they all tie together, especially when we start looking at our local, our regional, and our tourism markets. The piece of pie from which we get all of our revenues as business people, and where the city generates all of the tax revenue to push the city. It's only as big as it can be, and there are constantly new people coming in. The county of Albemarle in the last 3 years has opened 39 new restaurants, has created 740 new jobs, and in that same time period, which just happens to coincide with the last time that the city chose to increase the mills tax by 25%, it was not a 1% increase. We'll talk about the semantics of how we go through these budget cycles and tell the people of the city what these tax increases are. Since that happened, the city has gone stagnant as far as restaurants. There's been no growth. The Bureau of Labor and Statistics would say that we've actually lost restaurants, but Commissioner of Revenue's office is showing that we're at 265 restaurants in the city, and we've lost over 250 jobs. Now, point being, the people that are coming to the county and to the metropolitan statistical area and spending money, the county has put 39 new slices into that piece of pie. More tax money seems to be going that direction, and less money seems to be coming to the city. For the people in the city, I think that might be a problem.
Adam Healey, jump in here.
Well, so first to your first question, how the VRLTA and the CACVB work together. Eric Terry runs VRLTA for the state, and we're frequently in contact with each other. and I think that VRLTA does a great job of basically being the lobbying organization for the tourism industry in Virginia. We, as the CACVB, have some structural challenges in terms of lobbying because unlike any other Convention and Visitors Bureau in the state of Virginia, the CACVB, our organization, Charlottesville Albemarle Convention and Visitors Bureau, is actually a joint operating agreement between the two municipalities. Every other tourism bureau in the state of Virginia is actually a 501c3 or a 501c6. And when you're a 501c3, you have a lot more independence to take on lobbying activities, whereas in our particular case, it's just a reality that the 4 elected officials that sit on our board, 2 from the city and 2 from the county, don't want to be seen as taking adverse positions to each other's municipalities. So it's a little bit harder for us as an organization to get involved in, for example, lobbying activities when, for example, the city decides they would like to raise the meals tax or the lodging tax. And that's where the VRLTA steps in. They don't have those challenges. They can have a full-throated effort to focus on advocating for the tourism and in this case, the restaurant and lodging industries. And so, when there's a proposed increase in tax, I think it's very important that the tourism industry has a seat at the table with that conversation. How is this going to impact the restaurant owners? How is this going to impact all of the people that work in the restaurant and lodging and tourism industry, which is over 6,000 people in Charlottesville and Albemarle County? Tourism is actually the second largest facet to the economy here behind the University of Virginia. So, and tourism is an ROI positive industry for the city and the county. Every dollar that is invested in tourism in Charlottesville and Albemarle County gets returned at least sixfold, 6x, $6 come back in the form of not just tax revenue from lodging perspective or meals tax revenue, but also retail tax, right? So in the state of, in our municipality, $630 million of expenditures were invested into this area by tourists last year. In the state of Virginia, it's $24 billion. Tourism is a big industry. It's incredibly important for us as a community, and it's also important that everybody understands that it's a net ROI positive. Every dollar we generate from tourists that fund our budget is a dollar that us as taxpayers that live here do not have to fund ourselves.
I love it. I love it. Let me jump in, and then I'm going to throw it back to you here. I love the barbershop debate. And we had a little issues with the feed here and with Comcast. Comcast, I freaking hate you. But we have reset the ISP, and we're good to go now. Peter Castiglione, I'm going to throw this to you. From my perspective, tourism and tourists are a gold mine for Charlottesville and Central Virginia. Tourists do not tax our school system. Tourists use very little, of our roads. Tourists come to Charlottesville, Central Virginia, and Albemarle County. They go to your restaurants. They go to Al Schoenberg's Vineyard at Keswick. They go to the breweries, whether it's Blue Mountain and Nelson, whether it's Champion in the city of Charlottesville, and they're willing and eager to open up their pocketbooks and their wallets and spend money. And if they have a great freaking time in Charlottesville, Albemarle County, and Central Virginia, they then go to their homes and become the best evangelists possible for Charlottesville and Central Virginia. As someone whose entire business is tied to the positivity of Charlottesville with I Love CVille, I love tourists. Tourists are buying our merchandise on ilovecville.com. I do not understand why they are not being celebrated even more. Neil Williamson, we will get to your quote right here from the Free Enterprise Forum. I'm going to throw it to you, let you go in any direction you want, sir.
I want to go down the tax increase hole.
Okay.
I've been watching this for years, and the way that our city management goes about presenting possible tax increases needs to change, and I'll tell you why. We're going to go to the next budget meeting on March the 4th, and we're going to go down to City Hall, and we're going to walk into chambers, and they're going to put up on the big board that there's a $2.4 million hole in our budget. Let me tell you that since 2007, there's always been a hole in the budget going into a budget cycle. And at the end of that cycle, there's always a surplus. $32 million between what we cry poor about going into the budget versus what we end up with over a 10-year period. So this is a game of semantics. They're going to talk about raising the lodging tax from 6% to 7%. They're going to call that a 1% increase. It's just 1%, and that 1% is going to generate $600,000 to $800,000 of revenue for whatever pet project they want to subscribe it to. In 2015, we raised the mills tax. It was police, it was city schools, and it was a raise for the city employees of 2%. These tax increases are always justified and attached to things that all of us as taxpayers in Charlottesville want. I want better schools. I've got a 7-year-old in Burnley Moran. I want more affordable housing. I want Friendship Court to get the money. I want city transit to get better. I want to see the CVB get funded for once so that they can start driving business to our industry. But none of that money, when these tax increases go into place, ever goes directly to any of the projects that they're using to champion the tax increases. It goes right into the general fund.
It's called smoke and mirrors.
It goes right into the general fund, and then that money is used to either pay down this absorbent amount of debt that we're carrying from all the money we've borrowed all the years on a AAA bond rating. So the idea that we're going to put out to the public that a 14% increase in the lodging tax rate is going to be called 1%, like it's no big deal. If they were to raise the meals tax again from 5 to 6%, from 5 to 6, not a 1% increase in the tax rate, a 20% increase in the tax rate, that will supposedly create $2.4 million. One time, 1 year only. And if they do it, you know what we're going to do this year? We're going to save affordable housing, and the schools are going to get the extra $4 million they're asking for. But that's not the truth of the matter. The county cannot raise a lodging tax or a mills tax without a referendum. The people in the county's at 4% in the lodging tax right now. We're at 6, doing a 7. The mills tax rate in the county is 4%. We're at 5. We're 25% higher. If we do it again, we're 33% higher than the county. And I just told you that the county's gobbling up our market share. None of this makes sense unless we really need the money, which we might. But if we're going to get that money, stop telling us that these are 1% increases that don't have consequences that we need to have to save the world. Because that's the way it is going to be presented. That's the way it's always been presented. And I think it is deceptive at best.
Peter Castiglione has brought some heat, right? Let's turn that into a sizzle reel. I'm going to get your perspective and your take here. Here's how I see it. This is the layman's perspective. You guys are the experts. It's easy for politicians to tag tax increases to keywords and hot words like affordable housing, because affordable housing is in the news cycle now, and affordable housing has a sentimental, heartfelt tag to it. So if you tag tax increases to affordable housing, people are less opposed to tax increases because people feel guilty and they want to help other people, because that's what generally people are, is they're generally good. What he is saying is perhaps some of those tax increases are being bait and switched. And they're being bait and switched from perhaps affordable housing for tax increases to not potentially going to affordable housing. I would like to see, as someone who truly understands, and Andre Xavier just said you really just educated us, so you got props there. What I would like to see, and then I'm throwing it to you, Adam Healey, is I would like to see tourism funded even more. It utterly flabbergasts me that the regional and national campaign, and please correct me if I'm wrong, has $350,000 behind it. And $350,000 may sound like a lot to you, me, Adam, Peter, and it is a lot of money. I'm not marginalizing $350,000. But I'm telling you, as someone who owns the top advertising agency in Charlottesville and Central Virginia, that I have 19 clients on my active roster who are spending $350,000 in a 6-month period just in the Central Virginia freaking market. So $350,000 from a regional and national campaign is peanuts.
Right.
Ball's in your court, sir.
One of the first things I did when I was placed in this role last summer was conduct a best practices analysis of some competitive and comparable tourism markets, and really try to understand how these other markets were funded and compare them to how we're funded. And we identified 5 markets across the country that were that we consider comparable slash aspirational markets: Asheville, North Carolina; Charleston, South Carolina; Chapel Hill, North Carolina; Boulder, Colorado; and Sonoma County, California. And each of them are similar to us in some ways. Boulder has the outdoor scene, Sonoma has the wine scene, Charleston is the #1 tourism destination, Chapel Hill is a college town, Asheville is an amazing, successful tourism market. And when we looked at how big the tourism budgets were in each of those 5 markets and compared them to our budget, and then we normalized the data by how many hotel rooms are in each of those markets, we are dramatically underfunded as a destination. Charlottesville has about $430 a year to invest in marketing per hotel room that we have here. Whereas if you look at Asheville, for example, they have 10 times the budget that we do on a per hotel room basis. So our annual budget last year was $1.8 million for tourism. Asheville's budget was $18 million. And so why is this? Well, Asheville is actually, the destination is marketed under the Buncombe County Tourism Association, and they collect a lodging tax just like we do, but they take 100% of the lodging tax and they invest it back into tourism. In Charlottesville and Albemarle County, we have a lodging tax. We take 20% of that lodging tax and invest it back into tourism. 80% of those funds go back into the general funds that Peter was alluding to, which is basically a big black hole. It's a get out of jail free card. It's a whatever we want it to be. So my advocation is focusing on investing more in tourism here, because tourism is an investment that generates a 6-to-1 return on investment for the city and the county. Every dollar that we invest in marketing this destination and bringing tourists here is going to deliver 6x in return, $6 for every $1 invested, and that's going to defray the tax responsibility of each individual, each citizen that lives here. So wouldn't we rather have tourists coming who visit, staying longer, spending more money, and those dollars that they invest here are dollars that we as citizens do not have to invest in funding all the important priorities that we've talked about.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. Let's sizzle reel that. We'll sizzle reel Peter Castiglione's answer with the statistics because I thought it was money. And let's sizzle reel Healy's first answer to start the program, and get ready, Harris, for some more sizzle reels. I am utterly shocked by those numbers. You guys are educating me. I'm the layman, you're the experts, okay? Asheville, who has a dramatically greater budget than we do, didn't have to deal with August 12th. We are still dealing with the ramifications of A12. Asheville, so much more money to spend on tourism, us peanuts to spend on tourism, and we have arguably one of the nastiest events that have ever happened in a municipality in U.S. history. Maybe that's a bit hyperbole, maybe it's not. And we are still recovering from it. Now's when you double, triple, quadruple down on your advertising budget. A lot of people don't realize this. The time you advertise and you spend your ad dollars is not when times are good. You do it when times are bad because you can take market share away from competitors. You do it when times are bad. Now's the time when we should be doing it. Peter Castiglione, get that big, beautiful brain in the mix here. What do you got?
It's interesting that you bring up the after effects of August 12th. The reason I got so riled up this year about the budget when I heard there might be a mills tax increase is because I emailed one of our city councilors, and the city councilor listened to me for an hour on the phone and then said, Peter, wow, what you're telling me about the restaurant industry in fiscal year 2018, which was a tough year for the restaurant industry. As a matter of fact, it was the year with the least amount of sales growth in the last 15 years. What bothered me, he said, Peter, that's not what we're being told going into this budget process. So he emailed me this, which is the City of Charlottesville's Strategic Plan Priorities Report dated January of 2019. This is all about the fiscal 2019 adopted budget, looking at what we're going to do. The opening statement in this 24-page document that was given to the city councilors is kind of a nutshell overview of where we are. We did $2.4 billion of gross receipts in the city in 2018. It's a big piece of pie here. The opening statement, and I'm going to read it to you because it's going to take a second. In fiscal year 2018, the Charlottesville economy brought in over $2.4 billion. The two biggest contributors were retail business and professional services. Gross receipts from professional service nearly doubled in 5 years. Retail business reversed a downward trend after showing steady declines in 15, 16, 17. This is the kicker. This is put in front of the city councilors to decide whether or not they're going to go for a lodging, a meals, or a real estate tax increase this year. Interestingly enough, restaurants witnessed a huge jump in sales in fiscal year 18, and hotels have seen steady increases since fiscal year 15. Then there's a graph down here at the bottom. And on this graph, to support this claim, it shows a $30 million increase in restaurant sales in fiscal year 2018. We did about $224 million of restaurant sales in 2017. We did about $225 million of restaurant sales in 2018. This information that was given to the counselors as an overview to discuss or prop up a tax increase is completely wrong.
And not only that, right? But when you're the government, when you're a municipality, you're looking at the overall revenue, right? They're saying, oh, restaurant taxes are going up. We're generating more revenue from taxes for our meals tax. But what that doesn't take into consideration is how each of those individual restaurants are doing. You have growth in restaurants, your tax revenue will go up. But on an individual basis, those restaurants could be hurting. Their revenues could be declining on an individual basis. And they have been declining. All the data that we're looking at shows that not only are restaurants down, hotels are down, and tourism is down. And we look at the STAR reports every month, which for the lodging industry indicate what the occupancy is each month, what the average daily receipts are, average daily rate for each hotel, what they're charging on an average basis for hotel rooms, and then you combine the product of those two together to get RevPAR, the revenue per available hotel room. And RevPAR is down over 4% year over year in this market. And so if you look at every other major market in the state of Virginia, RevPAR is up. If you look at Charlottesville, MSA, which includes Albemarle County, RevPAR is down. What does that mean? If you're a hotel owner in this area, you're not doing well. And you're specifically not doing well because a lot of those hotels are new. They were built in the last few years because historically, before August 12th, the hotel industry here was doing great. The other problem that we have here is that there are 15 new hotels that are being built in the Charlottesville MSA right now. That's going to increase overall hotel inventory 35% in the next 3 years. So it's going to get that much harder for hoteliers to be successful. The same thing is happening in the restaurant industry. Yeah. And so what does that mean? We need to invest in tourism. How are we doing so far investing in tourism? We are below all of our best practices markets. We are underfunded. How do we generate more funding? We put more of the tax revenue that we collect from tourism and from lodging and potentially from meals into tourism investment, marketing the destination to get more people here that are going to spend more money, stay longer, and then they're going to leave, but they're going to leave their dollars behind.
I love it. I love it. And I got a question for you. I have 3 questions for you. Any channel you're watching on 7 Facebook pages across the I Love CVille network, if you have a question, put it in the chat box, and if it's appropriate and respectable, I will relay it to the fellows here. Question coming in for you. Before I get to that, it just makes common sense, guys. There's roughly 50,000 people in a 10.27-mile area in the city of Charlottesville. There's roughly 250,000 people in Central Virginia in totality. We have a finite fixed number of people in Charlottesville, a finite and fixed number of people in Central Virginia. If we're building more hotels and we're launching more restaurants, we have the same amount of people in the area. If we're going to support these hotels and restaurants, they have to come from outside the area to be supported. It's so obvious. Peter Castiglione, I'm going to throw this to you from JoJo Robinson. She says, Peter, I appreciate that information and that data. This question is directed to Peter. Where can I find the data that proves that the meals tax will not go to affordable housing or schools? As an individual that is pro-affordable housing and schools, I would like to be able to address this with counsel immediately.
It's good. Ask your counselors. Literally, call them up, talk to them, and say, hey, is any of this money from these tax increases going to be appropriated directly into a CIP fund for affordable
Don't use
housing?
the acronyms.
A capital improvement project. Ask them if they can tell you that if they implement these tax increases, that money is going to go directly from the county's pocket, the city's pockets, into the funds. Is it going straight to the school board? How does the money get there? Ask them how that happens, because they're going to tell you it's going to go into the general fund, and then the money's going to get moved around, and we have set aside these funds based on our budget to put the money towards these causes.
And could I also add,
please.
I think first of all, the meals tax is actually a regressive tax. If we're
Agreed.
focused on race equity and affordable housing and issues like that, which are incredibly important issues, and we should be focused on those things, I think it's important to realize that having a meals tax is a regressive tax. And so secondly, with the lodging tax, the CACVB doesn't necessarily have a position about whether or not the city should increase the lodging tax. As I said earlier, we're structurally not able to do so. But what I can certainly be an advocate for is we need to be, if we're going to be taxing these tourists more, a percentage at least, if not all of that tax revenue collected, should be invested back into tourism. Just like in Asheville, North Carolina, 100% of the lodging tax is invested in tourism. Why? Because it delivers an incredible return on investment, 6 to 1, $6 to $1. And so I just think it makes good governance sense that if we're going to increase taxes that impact tourists, like lodging and meals, we should also be looking at what we're investing into tourism industry. If we take that money and we just put it in the general fund, which is currently proposed, we're not investing it into tourism. We're not focusing on growing the pie in the future. If we do invest these dollars back into tourism, which basically goes to marketing the destination, right? It's telling more people about Charlottesville, having more people understand how incredible this destination is to come and visit. The incredible 35 vineyards that we have here that are the world-class vineyards, and Virginia and Charlottesville area specifically is truly becoming a top wine destination in the world. You know, the incredible history that we have here with the 3 presidents that all have homes here, the incredible farm-to-table movement that we have here, and the fact that for the most part a lot of the restaurants that operate here, and Peter can talk to this, are farm-to-table restaurants. They're getting a lot of their ingredients sourced from the area. The incredible outdoor amenities that we have here, 30 minutes from Shenandoah National Park, the incredible arts and culture scene, the music scene, and visual and performing arts scene, the Festival of the Photograph that unfortunately died, but I hope to see resuscitated, but also, of course, the Virginia Film Festival and the Virginia Festival of the Book, both hosted here in Charlottesville. We have incredible reasons, Tom Festival, for people to come and visit us, and we just simply want to get the word out with a bigger advertising budget to tell more people. So we can reach people in New York, we can reach people in Chicago,
DC.
we can reach people in DC,
Yeah.
we can reach people in Charlotte, we can reach people in Research
Driving
Triangle Park.
distance.
Driving distance.
It's
Come
so
here,
obvious.
spend the money, and depart, have a great time, tell all your friends about it, and leave your dollars here so we can use those dollars to fund our general funds.
I'm going to throw this, and then you jump in the mix here. Here's what he means by regressive taxes. I just try to make it like, these guys are so smart. I'm just a guy that's trying to make the language approachable, okay? A regressive tax. Here's what a regressive tax is. We talk about affordable housing in the city of Charlottesville. Well, guess what? When you raise real estate taxes, I'm a landlord, own 40% of this building here. I have clauses in my contracts and leases that say my leases go up 5% every year. Landlords have triple net leases, okay? A regressive tax, the landlords don't absorb the exposure. They pass it on to the tenants, which means the tenants suffer more from a disposable income standpoint. Please understand what is happening here. Another thing that's happening, when you raise the meals taxes here, you're essentially creating the barrier of entry for restaurants to be for the wealthy. When you raise the increase of bills and the increase of the check that comes at the end of the meal, you're basically saying you need more disposable income to go to these particular restaurants. That's what regressive taxes mean. Peter Castiglione, I'm going to throw it to you. I need to get a couple things off the chat. The chat is blowing up right now. Neil Williamson from the Enterprise Free Forum. Neil, we appreciate you. I follow you on Twitter. Your information is baller. It's always baller. He says, FYI, Albemarle County spends a portion of their tourism revenue extinguishing development rights via the Acquisition Conservation Easement ACE program. I don't know much about that. Perhaps you do. This is a question that I'm going to throw to you from two questions, but first let's get Peter in the mix. We'll get your brain thinking about him first. Andre Xavier would say, what would take to change the lodging tax use to make it 100% to the tourism fund? Can we request a referendum? Corbin Snow, the CEO of Snow No, says you refer to 4 or 5 other tourist destinations that are similar to our area. Are these markets also run by elected leaders? How do our tax rates compare to these other markets? Peter Castiglione, before we get to Adam's answers on this, Fletcher Stevens wants me to ask you who your favorite customer is. Fletcher Stevens is one who frequents your bar often. I see that. And Fletcher Stevens says tourism is a great way to generate local income without increasing local population, i.e. infrastructure costs. Fletcher, you're 100% right. Castiglione, jump in here. What do you got, sir?
Don't try to play the favorites game, but we certainly appreciate your support, Fletcher. Keep coming. We're going to need you more and more if they keep raising the taxes around here. I want to speak to the regressive nature of the tax. We used this argument in 2015 to really try to drive home to a council at that point that had 3 people that were going to vote for the meals tax no matter what. It was written in stone before we even started the fight last time, and came up with almost 5,000 petitions signed in 2 weeks. 5,000 petitions, that's 10% of our population said don't do it. They did it anyway.
Right.
But the point is, it is regressive. And the fast food chains of Charlottesville, who are paying minimum wage to people and who are selling a product that may or may not be healthy, they're contributing an awful lot of this tax revenue. People that can't afford to go out and eat will go out to eat and go to these places instead of going to the grocery store and buying something healthy. To support the businesses that support minimum wage and do that makes the tax even more regressive. The people that have the least amount of money to spend go out the same amount of times as the people that have money to spend. But the amount of income that they're spending is way higher. Thus, the tax is regressive.
It's an anthropological study. It has a generational impact of folks when you raise taxes, not only from a housing standpoint, but from a quality of life of what folks are digesting and putting into their bodies. When they have limited disposable income, they're going to go for the cheapest option from a food standpoint, and oftentimes the cheapest option is not the healthiest option. Healy, you have a number of questions who I've thrown to you.
Those are some great questions.
Yeah.
So the regressive tax means that it disproportionately impacts the people who are least capable of absorbing that tax increase, right? And so that's not a good thing. There's some great questions. So I believe Andre Xavier asked about the mechanism in which we would actually go about increasing the funding to tourism. It's an excellent question. So the first step, we actually already accomplished a change to the joint operating agreement between the city and county that formed the CACVB when we added 4 new board members. We added 2 new elected officials. We added 2 new tourism professionals. We made the Monticello and the Chamber of Commerce seats full voting members, and we eliminated the concept of an advisory board. All that happened in a mechanism that I'll describe. First, the CACVB board voted to make those changes through an amendment that I proposed and championed. Secondly, it went to both the Albemarle Supervisory Board and the Charlottesville City Council, where each of those bodies had to approve the changes. Once they approved the changes, the joint operating agreement was amended from a governance perspective. To change the funding, it would require the same mechanism, but it would have an additional layer of complexity. So first of all, the CACVB has to vote as a board and say, we want to increase the amount of TOT, the tourism occupancy tax, that stays within tourism and is invested back into tourism. From right now, it's 30% of the first 5% of tax collected. Albemarle County collects a 5% lodging tax. City of Charlottesville collects a 7% lodging tax, and they're proposing and increasing it to 8%.
City Hall's watching right now.
Great. So what would happen is that the CACVB board would vote to change the joint operating agreement. Then it would go to the city and county bodies, governing bodies respectively, and then they would both need to approve it. But because it's a budgeting issue, it also needs to go through the regular budgeting process. So we're wrapping up the budgeting cycle for fiscal year 2020, which the fiscal year is July 1st to June 30th in the city and the county. So basically, the budgeting process is going to end up in April, and then that's going to be the budget starting July 1st. So then in August, really relatively soon, the budgeting process cycle starts for the following fiscal year. So I'd love to see us pass a special resolution that injected emergency funds into the tourism industry, because again, we're down. It's only going to get worse. Williamsburg added,
my hometown.
Williamsburg added a 1% retail sales tax, a 1% additional tax, which was more than a 1% increase. But they said 100% of those funds are going to go into tourism. They had it approved in Williamsburg, and then they had to go to the state level to have it approved as well. And they got it approved because Williamsburg understands the importance of tourism to their economy. We have a similar situation here. And I would like to see us moving with more speed, with more urgency. But for us to increase the TOT allocation, we need to go through the budgeting cycle that's going to start in August and wrap up and go into impact next July 1st. And that has to happen simultaneously to us having the CACVB board approve it and then the city and the county approve it as well.
I love it. And guys, we're going to debut and showcase for the first time across the board the CACVB new advertising campaign that's going to impact Charlottesville and Central Virginia. His brainchild, 6 months of hard work. Yes, you've worked with some team members, but you've been the point of contact and the guy that's been spearheading a lot of these efforts. Before we do and get to that, show's yours. Jump in here. You have a lot to offer. You're connecting with people here.
Well, good. I really wanted to make my point. Number one, we need to market the tourism and the restaurant industry in Charlottesville. It's one of the best ones. We have great restaurants. We have great attractions. And the fact that we don't spend any money to push it forward is frustrating. It's always been that way, and it really needs to change. So I support Adam 100%.
Me too.
Let's find a way to move some of this tax revenue that comes from this $2.4 billion of revenue that hits the city and get it to where it needs to be to help prop up the lodging industry, the wine industry, the wedding industry, the restaurant industry. It's a no-brainer. I want to stick with the budget thing.
Sure.
I'll pick up where I left off. I showed you the report that was completely false. This came one day before a Wednesday budget meeting to decide whether or not we were going to post and publish a possible real estate raise. Luckily,
well, we know what happened.
well, but fortunately, I got in touch with the counselor. I got the information. I talked to the treasurer. I talked to the commissioner of revenue, and I talked to the head of economic development. We filtered through it, realized it was wrong. It went to city management, and city management amended it, made all the changes 20 minutes before the meeting started the next day. So I'm thinking, okay, probably just a mistake. Things happen. It's our city government. It's a big deal. We're talking about tax increases, but I get it. We took the information from some preliminary numbers that we had earlier in the year, and we misconstrued them, and we put them in this report, and they were wrong. But now we've got it right. We sit down at the meeting. I come in with a packet, a 20-page packet with my own numbers to try to give the city councilors just in case the city hadn't amended it. And when we sit down at that meeting, we're not allowed to talk in the public. It's just a round table between the city management and the 5 city councilors. No one brought up the fact that the information was wrong. Nobody brought up the fact that the information had been changed, and maybe, just maybe, you should take 90 seconds to read Peter's cover page and try to absorb the 3 charts that we changed. That was very frustrating for me. And this goes back to what I want to explain to everyone, that every year there's a meeting out at Morven Farm to start this whole process off, and nobody goes because it's all the way out at Morven Farm. It's a public meeting. There'll be a couple of people from the restaurant industry, the Downtown Business Association, and the media. Everyone needs to get involved at that point and start watching and paying attention, because if we pay attention collectively, we know what the real information is. And if we know what the real information is, we can hold our city councilors accountable for the decisions they make.
Amen.
If this information was still being proffered as the truth, I might even be willing to raise the meals tax, because that looked pretty darn good, $30 million in 1 year.
Who put that together?
I'm not going to name names. I'm not here to call anybody out. I am here to say that in the future, I don't want to see it happen again. But
has it happened in the past besides this?
I'm going to talk about this right here because I have
Peter
this in front of me.
Castiglione.
What hasn't happened in the past is not something I want to go.
Fair.
But I do want to say that it could be that I didn't find out, that I didn't get them to change it, and that they make a decision. If they were to make that decision, and if we in the restaurant industry are correct after watching what's happened and watching the last meals tax increase stagnate the growth in the city, while a county with a lower rate is growing around us, and around us, like the county's literally growing around us, then they're not even accountable for making the decision because they made it on bad information. Now, if they say, yet that's a 20% increase, and yet that might negatively impact the restaurant business, and yes, we'll look 2 years from now and see what happened, just like the last time, then they can say, oh man, maybe I shouldn't have voted to increase that tax at that time, because the short-term win versus the long-time result, it was not a win situation. But they can say, I made a mistake, if they have the proper information. If they don't, they never made the mistake, Jerry. They just took the information that came to them and then decided to increase the tax, and now there's absolutely no accountability and no repercussions.
I'm going to get your thoughts here in the mix. A lot of people we need to get to on the stream. I want to get their thoughts out and then get your perspective here. Neil Williamson says that 30% contribution is mandated by state law. It is the minimum.
It's the minimum.
It's the minimum.
It's the minimum mandated.
Yeah, minimum mandated. We know that. James Watson says, I'm thinking back to the year 2000. Charlottesville's main tourist attraction was Monticello. In the last 10 years, vineyards, breweries, the downtown mall, Tom Tom, and the Dave Matthews Band Phenomena has made it far more of a tourist destination than Charlottesville ever was. It sounds like the local industry grew a ton, but local government got stuck somewhere and did not evolve with the industry itself. We are no longer just Monticello. Amen, James Watson.
Excellent comment.
Great point, James Watson. Jojo Robinson has a question for both of you. The $75,000 for advertising that the council gave downtown for tourism, has it helped any? I'll put that on the radar for both of you. Lloyd Snook, Charlottesville City Council candidate, contributing to the discussion. Snook says, and I think Snook is a solid guy here, guys. I'm going to leave my politics aside. The property tax on a property, he's talking about Keith Woodard's property, $80 million project on Water Street. He says the property tax on a property valued at $80 million, which is admittedly not the same as a property that costs $80 million to build, is going to be 95 cents per $100 or $760,000. Raising 1 penny on our property tax rate will generate about $700,000. If we build 2 Keith Woodard buildings, we don't need a tax hike at all. This gentleman's coming up with creative ways to subsidize the budget shortfall by being entrepreneurial as opposed to taxing citizens. Adam Healey, jump in here, please.
Well, Lloyd's absolutely right. There were instances where I believe the city council could have acted differently, and they wouldn't find themselves in the budget shortfall that they consider themselves in today. There was a question earlier about governance at these other
Corbett Snow.
areas.
Yeah.
That was an excellent question that I'd love to
Let me throw that
address.
back out there, and then
Yeah.
you answer. I'll give it to Healy. This is from Corbett Snow, who's an entrepreneur, a businessman, CEO of Snow Garden Center. We're building his website right now. Corbett Snow says, you refer to 4 or 5 other tourist destinations that are similar to our area. One of them was Asheville. Are these markets run by elected leaders? How do our tax rates compare to these other markets?
Great question. 2 answers, 2-part answer. One is Charlottesville is the only tourism bureau in the state that has elected officials on its board.
That's crazy.
And that was facilitated at the end of last year. 2, all of the other markets that I described have a majority of industry professionals on their board and a minority of government and elected officials on their board. If you look at Asheville, again, I think there's no reason that Charlottesville can't be the Asheville of Virginia.
Amen.
And Asheville's an incredibly successful tourism destination, and I would say that we have at least as much, if not more, going for us.
More?
We have the vineyards, we have the history, we have
Better music scene.
We have a better music scene.
Less brewery scene, better vineyard scene.
Right.
More outdoor. I mean, Asheville's got great
Asheville's
outdoor
got good
scene, great
outdoor.
outdoors, yeah.
They're strong there, but I think that all the things you shared, I think we have absolutely every claim to be the crown jewel of the state of Virginia. And we need to fund it as such. And we're not doing that. In Asheville, they have an 11-person board. 2 of the 11 members of the board are elected officials, both of whom are non-voting members. The rest of the 9 individuals are tourism industry professionals. And that allows you, and they're set up as a 501c3. What do those things allow you to do? They allow you to have a full-throated advocacy for tourism. Our mission as an organization at the CACVB is to focus on driving tourism and hospitality to the region. Everything we do should be focused on that mission, including advocating for budget increases for our organization and potentially including lobbying against tax increases that don't get invested back.
Props. Give me some props on that. Adam Healey bringing some fire right now. Get in here, Peter Castiglione. I think you guys are educating people, and I'm seeing by the feed people are responding well. Please bring the brain, that beautiful brain that you have, into the mix.
Well, I want to say now that I don't want to come across after this show is over as being a negative Nancy.
You're not. You're realistic.
I'd like to think I'm being pragmatic.
Yes.
And I did get upset, and I get upset every budget cycle, not with where we are. And I got to go to Lloyd's point. Again, I'm not going to call out city councilors for the decisions they do and don't make. But between Mr. Woodard's project and the landmark, I mean, it's just, we wouldn't have these problems if those developments were allowed to move forward. So yeah, thank you, Lloyd. No doubt, we wouldn't be talking about any sort of tax increase if we were getting that money from the real estate development.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it doesn't
So
make any
obvious,
sense.
right?
Right, but what bothers me, those decisions get made, and then we get to this point, and then we get back to this situation where we're looking at a budget, and we've got, and I always do the quotes, there's a hole in the bucket. There's always this hole in the bucket, and I don't think that there's really a hole in the bucket. I don't.
You know, and let me throw this in the mix, and we're going to get to another fantastic point, which we've also made here on the program from James Watson. Albemarle County Board of Supervisors are limiting how farms, literally individuals who own farms, what they can and cannot do on their farms. And when you limit what farm owners can do and whether or not they want to make it into a party or a wedding venue, and some farm owners want to make their farms into a wedding venue to generate some extra income, here's what's going to happen, Board of Supervisors. All right, short term, you got some peace and quiet. Peace and quiet in the area. Those farmers and those farms, when they get to the 2nd generation or the 3rd generation and the people are not as passionate or committed to those properties, yeah, you tell them they can't make any money, but you're going to raise their real estate taxes and their profit margin shrinks, guess what they're going to do? They're going to turn those farms into subdivisions. And you're going to have issues from subdivisions that are far greater than allowing a farm owner to have 15 weddings on his property. It makes no freaking sense to me. James Watson, then I'm going to throw it to you. Charlottesville government has got to change the tourism business paradigm. Let's face it, our visitor center is at the end of a mall in a bus station where nobody can find it. James, I'm going to add to it. Our welcome center is at the end of a mall, which is an epicenter of drunken hobos outside the welcome center. That is the absolute antithesis of a welcome center. And it's run by folks that prioritize the busing and transportation first, and the Welcome Center is a secondary component of that. That one hits close to home. You're probably going to offer some perspective on that. Andre Xavier, James, I agree 100% with your comment. I gave the idea of the kiosks by the Paramount list. This idea will be discussed with the CACVB board. Adam Healey, we appreciate everything you're doing right now. We have city councilors watching right now, board of supervisors watching right now, and city hall watching right now. The show is yours, Adam Healey.
Well, I agree. I'd love to see a kiosk in the center of the downtown mall. I think that's a fantastic idea. And the joint operating agreement of the CACVB mandates that there be a physical presence for the Tourism Bureau, both in the city and the county. I'd like to see us build a new, shiny new visitor center in the county, and that would be easily accessible off of the highway. There's a couple of sites that would make sense, and we're going to be conducting a best practices analysis of visitor centers and taking that back to the board for them to vote on this at our next board meeting. And I'd like to see us showcasing the incredible wine market that we have here in the visitor center. You show up at the visitor center, and there's a permanent tasting room there. You have all the wines in the area represented. You have shuttles that'll take you immediately on a wine tour. You have a shuttle that'll take you immediately up to Monticello, up to Montpelier, and you have an ability to potentially combine that with a wine center, a wine museum, where you showcase the birthplace of American wine, which is Thomas Jefferson. We have right in our backyard. We have the ability to co-brand this and co-work with the University of Virginia on this project. So this is just nascent, early stage thinking, but there was interest expressed at our last board meeting to understand this subject further and to put more time and energy into researching it and figuring out what we can do, because we have to plant a flag in the ground and say this is the center of, this is the best Virginia wine for sure. We win all of the awards in the Jefferson Cup. The Governor's Cup. We win all the awards here. We need to plant a flag in the ground and say, not only is Charlottesville, Albemarle, Monticello the center of Virginia wine, but Virginia wine is the best wine that you can get outside of the West Coast in the United States. So it's incumbent upon us to do that. We're the people that need to do that. There's nobody else that's going to come do that for us. We need to do it ourselves.
All right, I'm going to throw this. I got a lot of stuff on the feed here, and then I want to get you in the mix, where you can go anywhere you want.
Okay.
So Ray Cadell says 50 million, almost 50 million last year from the wedding business alone in Charlottesville, Albemarle County, in Central Virginia. Who else in our economy can show that kind of cash infusion into the Central Virginia economy?
Well, weddings is obviously, weddings
outside of the University of Virginia.
Big driver of the economy here, underappreciated
He's watching
contributor.
in Florida right now. They have tourism thing figured out in Florida. Literally is watching in Florida. It shows the beautiful thing of this platform.
Yeah, I mean, the wine industry, the wedding industry is an incredibly important aspect to the tourism economy here, and we need to acknowledge that and understand the impact that weddings has on the tourism industry. When folks have their destination weddings in Charlottesville, they're typically bringing in 150 to 200 people that don't live here. And they're staying in hotels over the weekends, they're spending their money in restaurants, they're spending their money at the venues, they're spending their money in retail.
And most importantly, they are leaving, and if they have a good time, they become evangelists for the area.
Exactly.
And the best kind of marketing, and it doesn't even take an order of an advertising agency or a big brain like this or a big brain like this to understand the best kind of marketing is word of mouth marketing. When one person tells somebody else about a good experience. Peter Castiglione, jump in here, sir, anywhere you want to go.
Oh no, the restaurants, especially our restaurant, the amount of rehearsal dinners that we get from the weddings is crucial. I mean, we rent out an upstairs dining room or a side dining room or a patio on a Friday or Saturday night, and that's how if we didn't have that,
that's how you make it through the dog days.
That's how we make it through all the days.
Yeah.
Like every penny that comes through the door is a penny that's needed.
Yeah.
And every penny that we have to charge more to the customer to raise our prices. Let's just talk about the increase in cost of goods and health insurance for our employees and raising rent rates on properties that we're leasing from the landlords. We're our own landlord, so I'm kind of stuck in the middle. I need my landlord to put some money
Yeah,
into the
you're
building,
getting it from both sides.
I'm getting it from
dude.
both sides.
You
I
get
hear ya.
spanked from both sides.
But
I'm
it's-
not laughing. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I know what we got
I'm
ourselves
getting
into.
spanked here.
But it's just interesting because we need the wedding market to grow, and I know it took a beating in 2018. I heard 25% down was a number that was thrown out there, but whatever percentage that is, that's a lot of revenue.
And this is a stat I think I got from you, and correct me if I'm wrong, hotels down 10.4% year over year?
In the city of Charlottesville, the RevPAR numbers were down, not quite that much. So if you look at city versus county, the city's been more negatively impacted in the hotel lodging space over the last 12 months. But overall, the MSA is down, 5+%. And that is, if you compare that to all the other major markets in Virginia, those markets are up from a RevPAR perspective last 12 months. So we can look at August 12th as the beginning of when this downturn started happening. And I think it's incumbent upon us to just look honestly at the data and make sure that our elected officials also look honestly at the data.
And look at real
data
honestly.
And realize that the tourism industry is down. That means lodging is down. That means restaurants are down. Weddings are down. And I hear that anecdotally as well as looking at the data on a monthly basis.
So which means it sounds to me like this would be a really poor time to saddle any of those industries with a tax increase.
And instead, we'd like to see more money going into the tourism industry to invest.
The entire premise of my analysis on this on I Love CVille was literally this is the worst time possible to raise taxes in the city of CVille in Central Virginia. 160,000 plus unique IPs have read that analysis.
And can I make
on
one
I Love
clarification?
CVille. Please,
yeah,
please.
I'm not saying I don't have the ability to sit here and say to the Charlottesville City Council, I don't think you should raise taxes. But I do have the ability to say, okay, you've decided to raise taxes or you're considering raising taxes. Have you looked at the tourism industry? Have you looked at what you're doing to the tourism industry? Have you thought about the amount of money that we're investing currently in the tourism industry? Have you looked at that compared to other markets in Virginia, elsewhere? And does that make sense in the context of the ROI that you generate for every dollar invested in the tourism industry?
I love it. Emily, okay. Emily Holter running weddings for the local restaurant and catering, the local Adam Frazier's outfit in Belmont. This dude is stacking paper from a catering standpoint in the local. And she says weddings. There is enough business for every single vendor out there to be successful. Restaurants, vendors, photographers, venues, bands, limo companies. Every vendor can make money from weddings. It's unheard of that this industry is not being celebrated. Emily Holter, props to you on that statement right there. Peter, I would like to, God, there is a lot coming in right now. I would like to show the CACVB campaign.
Yeah.
Harris, we have to work in conjunction here. Harris Tolber is our director, so let's straight up communicate. What I'm going to do, guys, is I have storyboards behind me. I'm going to show the storyboards on camera in front of me. Harris Tolber, our director, is going to put the storyboards on screen. Is this the first slide?
Yes.
Okay. So, Harris, first slide. Go ahead and put that up on screen. I'm going to put this in front of me so Adam can talk and give us the Marv Albert play-by-play.
Absolutely, yeah. So thank you, Jerry. This is a team effort, by the way. So as I said, our ad agency, Clean, took the lead on this, and I've been working with them closely, and our board has been providing feedback, and we've been soliciting feedback. We actually ran focus groups for this campaign, and we did market research in our target area, which is Washington, D.C. currently. So here's the first ad, and now I should also stipulate that this photography is for placement only, which means we'll be shooting original photography at Virginia Vineyard in Charlottesville, Albemarle area when we finalize this in the next few weeks. The campaign is There's More to See, C apostrophe, which represents CVille, which incorporates both Charlottesville and Albemarle County. Jerry, if anyone understands CVille, you understand CVille. There's more to see than the wine list. So in Charlottesville, in CVille, wine comes with a view. Look out at the Blue Ridge Mountains, look back on the birthplace of American wine. and plan your trip at visitcharlottesville.org. And here you can see the branding, the new branding for our destination is the Charlottesville and Albemarle, Virginia logo here. So over the next few months, we'll be rolling out this branding across our destination. And then this is the first advertisement that you might see coming to a publication or online near you. Then we can basically flip it around to the second one.
Okay, so what we're going to do, Harris, leave the slide on screen. Leave it on screen for roughly 10 or 15 seconds so people can see it, and then flip to Healy as he's doing the play-by-play. Makes it a little more dynamic.
Sure,
okay,
sounds
so
good. Yep.
Slide 2, Adam Healey, the show is yours.
Yeah, great. So we obviously have an amazing outdoor scene. I love Shenandoah National Park and the fact that you can pop over there in 20 minutes. So this is advertising and promoting that aspect of living here, the quality of life that affords us. There's more to see than what's on the map. And so for visitors that come here, they also have the benefit of having that access to Shenandoah National Park and the other outdoor recreation opportunities that are here. If you want to experience all of CVille, leave town. Spend your day in the Blue Ridge Mountains and still make it back by dinner. Plan your visit at visitcharlottesville.org. So that's the second one, which is obviously focused more on the outdoor recreational market. If you're in Washington, D.C., and you want to get away for the weekend, escape D.C., this is an amazing place to come. Here's a third one. This is focused on our incredible restaurant scene here. We have an incredible restaurant scene in Charlottesville, and there's more to see than what's on the menu. So a memorable dining experience requires three things: good food, a good vibe, and good company. In CVille, it's all here waiting for you. And again, this is focused on capturing, and we'll be able to shoot this at multiple restaurants. I hope we can come to yours.
Please
Peter,
do.
shoot at mine and shoot it there. So that's the third one. We're going to go to that one next.
So this is the fourth slide for Harris?
Yes.
Okay, so Harris, fourth slide. This is a horizontal slide, Harris. Good work, Harris.
And I'm wondering whether I think it's this one.
Okay, it's this one right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is about our amazing farm-to-table scene here, and this also focuses on the restaurant industry, but also all the agribusinesses that surround us. There's more to see than what's on your plate. Here you have a nice family, and we have these incredible orchards as well. You've got Carter's Mountain, so we've got incredible destinations and attractions that support this. But in CVille, farm to table is the standard. In fact, on your way into town, you'll probably pass the ingredients you'll enjoy on your plate. And again, there's more to see than what's on your plate with the new branding. Plan your trip at visitcharlottesville.org. And then the last one we're talking about, and this is just the first slot of advertisements, so hopefully people appreciate that this is a scalable advertising campaign. We can continue to grow with this. There's more to see. Has tons of
baseline
scalability. Exactly. There's more to see than meets the ear. This is obviously focused on the music scene here, which is excellent. A stroll through the downtown mall in CVille may seem quiet, but if you listen hard enough, you'll always find some live music worth your while. And so that's really the fifth one. And, we're focused on promoting both Charlottesville, the city of Charlottesville, and all the incredible things you can do here and restaurants you can go to in the downtown mall, but we're also focused on promoting the incredible attributes of Albemarle County. The agritourism industry there, the great restaurants that are available as well, the music scene, the arts and culture, and the history, Monticello, Ashlawn Highland, and Montpelier.
I love it. We're going to get to the video shortly. Not quite yet. Let's get to the video shortly. Harris Tolber, Making Things Happen. Great analysis there from Adam Healey. Get your perspective. You got so much skin in the game here as a restaurateur. What'd you think of the storyboard you saw? Give us a breakdown.
I love it. You're hitting all the things that make Charlottesville great. Live music scene is fantastic. The food scene is, man, it's every bit as good as Charleston as far as I'm concerned. I can't believe that these other cities are on. I see Bizarre Foods with Andrew Zimmern, and I watch food shows on the Food Network, and I almost never see a Charlottesville restaurant make it to that national level. And I think it's because we're not marketing the city. I'm looking at this campaign here to be a local regional campaign to get things out. I would love to see Charlottesville somehow make it on a national level and get the credit that it's due, because we are farm-to-table restaurants. Maya's farm-to-table. I mean, we fabricate our own chickens and ducks and rabbits, and we get as much as we can from our local farms. It takes a lot of work. It creates a lot of jobs. It keeps everything local. It keeps things going. It'd be nice if people on a national level realized the kind of effort and hard work and dedication that we as farm-to-table restaurants put into doing what we do.
I love it. I love it. Let me get to a couple points from the feed. Harris, why don't you get the video? We're going to play, do you call it a short?
Yeah, so this...
well, give me 1 sec. So it's,
okay,
yeah,
it's a nickel tour.
A nickel tour. We're going to get to a video, guys, as an example of video. Video streaming, if you haven't realized, is going to be... Here's why. And we're not talking politics here, but the past election was impacted negatively by fake news. And as an investor in Facebook and as a brother, my brother's the head of global creative at Snapchat. As a guy who has tremendous ties to social, I understand and I read the earnings report at Facebook and I talk to, family, and I'm not talking too much, don't worry, bro. Where I'm going with this is live video streaming is undoubtedly going to be the future of social media. Why? Because you can't fake news live video streaming. It cannot be manipulated. It's me doing this or it's me doing this. Much more difficult to manipulate live video streaming. I'm the first in this market leveraging a live video streaming platform, but please understand that it's not the future, it's yesterday. Neil Williamson says this, and then we're going to get to the video. FYI, weddings are big business. Is the father of a bride. 6/6/20. Congratulations, Neil. His daughter's getting married in 2020, June 6th. Would you believe we lost out on not one, but two venues when we were booking last month? 1.5 years ahead of time, and we're still losing out on venues. That is crazy. Here's a creative, this is from Andre. Here's a creative idea that I would like to see what Adam and Peter think. The idea, let's create a new tax fee for visitors. Oh, this is interesting. Let's create, and Peter, I'll throw this to you and then we'll get to the video. Let's create a new tax or fee for visitors of tasting rooms at wineries, breweries, distilleries, cideries, and meaderies. Maybe $1 per person in case they make a purchase, the fee is waived. Only applies if they only go and do a tasting. This money would be used 100% to promote agro-tourism. What are your thoughts, gentlemen? Peter C., we will start with you first on that one.
That's a big one. I don't know that I have an opinion yet. I might have to vet that one with my friends at the VRLTA and figure out what the ramifications of that are. Because in general, I'm not a fan of
taxes,
any sort of tax increase. So yeah, it sounds like it probably has some legs, but I don't know that I can digest that in this moment and give a comment.
What do you think, Adam?
It could also be a cooperative agreement between the vineyards themselves to have like a co-marketing arrangement, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a tax levied by the municipality, right? It could be some sort of organized co-marketing or cooperative marketing.
Everybody throws
agreement.
into a fund.
Yeah. But yeah, I would agree with Peter. I need to think about that and digest it more. But I would say my priority in the shorter term is just keeping more of the taxes that we're already collecting invested back into tourism.
I love it. Peter Harris, are we ready, my friend, for the video?
Yeah, Jerry, I'm going to cue up the video. I might have had the video volume actually running for the first two clips that we showed, so I just want to apologize to viewers for that.
Okay, no
but
problem.
I'm going to cue that up shortly. And the video should start in about 3 seconds.
Okay, so they just watched the nickel tour.
Awesome.
Put it into perspective for us.
Great. So these nickel tours are also part of the ad campaign that we're rolling out. These are very digestible, social media friendly, short videos that are there to highlight restaurants, lodging opportunities, attractions, and activities that people can do when they come to Charlottesville. We're spinning up a new website, CVilleNickelTours.com, where people will be able to go watch these 15-second video clips and basically put an itinerary together for themselves of what they want to do when they come here just by clicking on a plus sign on each video. Those videos will go into a queue. They'll be able to create a PDF from those videos that'll give them all the information about their trip. So if they have a bunch of restaurants that they liked that they saw, or a particular lodging, or some other activities that they wanted to pursue, then they can put those all into on the website into a PDF, and it's super easy for tourists. And so the CACVB is actually funding these initial nickel tours. The first one that we showed was from the North American Sake Brewery, which is the only sake brewery in the state of Virginia.
Right.
They're doing a great job. Jeremy and Andrew are over there, and they graciously allowed us to use them as kind of the guinea pig for the first nickel tour. And we're going to shoot hundreds of these, and they're going to be super friendly to post on Instagram.
Love it.
The statistic now is that 30+% of tourists choose where they go through Instagram.
Through hashtags.
Yeah. So
I love
we
that.
need to be progressive about social media. No one understands that better than you, Jerry. And I'm glad that we're bringing the CACVB basically into the 21st century.
Thank God. I mean, God. He's doing what we have done, where we've taken our clients out of the yellow pages, out of newspapers, and out of print, and put them into these things. Because I'm going to tell you right now, and I did this the other day. I left my house and I forgot my lunch. And I said, screw it. I'm not going back home to pick up my lunch. But if I leave my house and I forget my phone, I stop everything. I am late to meetings. I turn back around to get my phone because I have a drug addiction to this. I am checking Facebook on average.
We can talk about that.
Yeah, it's true. I make my living on this screen.
I'm in the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
I can help you with
Yeah,
that.
and this is how he's going to solve my drug addiction. Here's one of Ted Norris's cocktails. Jump in here, Peter. I love your perspective. It's practical. It's pragmatic. People are responding well to it. I mean, you got to be pleased that we're going from print to digital in this.
Yeah, I am. I might even
Go anywhere you want.
I might activate a Facebook page finally, Jerry, just for you after this meeting.
Thank you.
We have our Maya page that we administrate, but I've always avoided the Facebook.
You're a private guy.
I'm a private guy.
Yeah.
Being a private guy, I'd like to throw a couple more numbers out.
Please do.
While I have a chance. 2016, the restaurant industry in the city employed 5,000 people. That's the second biggest number relative to UVA. You add the lodging in there, and we're back up around the 7,000 number. That's just the city. Now we're down to 4,700 employees. We've lost 250, 300 employees, but there's a lot of people with a lot of jobs. The restaurant industry is a business you can get into, and you can start as a dishwasher or start as an expo and work your way up the chain and become a manager or a part owner. It offers upward mobility for people that may or may not have another career path they've chosen at some point.
Johnson, your manager.
Johnson's been doing it since he's young, and he's killing it.
Perfect example.
It's a great example.
Yeah.
But that being said, I want people to realize that we're not out there getting rich when you walk into the restaurant and you see us busy on a Saturday night.
Right.
You know, there's a bar, and the glamour of it all as you see it. These guys must be banking money. It does not work that way. And we have a very powerful industry that employs a lot of people, and a lot of people that need second jobs or third jobs that can work flexible schedules. I just want to make the point that any time we increase the meals tax, this regressive tax, and we force the restaurant industry to raise the prices, I would love to raise my prices every time I had an issue. Oh, we'll just add $1 to the trout dish. We sell 4,000 of those a year. There's an extra $4,000 that's taken care of. But it does not work that way.
You eat the loss.
Our cost of goods keeps going up.
Yeah.
Our cost of running the businesses, again, our rents are going up. And I would just like to throw out there on the budget thing that for any of you who are wondering, we just had a tax assessment increase at the beginning of the year that created a $6 million surplus of money that was not budgeted into the 2019's budget. It was a windfall of $6 million. And that was a tax increase. When you raise the city assessments on real estate, whether it be commercial or residential, it's a tax increase.
Yeah.
They just did that, and they've done it a lot recently, and it's going to have to slow down because it was 29% a couple of years.
County, too.
point being, ask your city councilors, what's happening with that $6 million? Where did we put it? Is it going to the projects that we're now saying we need to raise taxes to fund? Can we take $3 million of that and give it to Adam and put it in the CAVB to start doing some marketing?
Yes, please.
What happens to that money? Where is it? Because as of the February 6th meeting I went to, that money had not been appropriated yet. And I've heard hide nor hair as to where it is now. Ask the questions. Ask them where the money is, and consider the fact that we very well may be able to get through this budget cycle without having to increase any of these tax rates.
That was good. That was well spoken. You're a good public speaker. I see why you're one of the leaders. You have courage, you have cojones, and you're well spoken, and you're intelligent, and you can assess data.
You don't have to flatter me.
No, I mean, I'm not flattering you. It's reality. It is the reality. He's also a very good athlete when he's healthy. Oftentimes on the disabled list. When he's healthy, he's a very good athlete.
The mentally disabled.
Neil Hoffman says, Adam Healey is a class act. Claire Francis says, this is an unbelievable campaign. I need it to extend to weddings. I am super, super impressed. We are 90 minutes in, and I'm doing another show at 3 o'clock, so we certainly have to wind down here. Before we wind down, I want to give everyone kind of like a final word. First, before we do that, you guys have made such clear and concise and compelling, articulate arguments of why doing this makes no sense. How are we still at this point? Why is it still like this close to actually going through?
Well, I think the only thing that I hope people leave today with, and especially those of us that are in government roles that are making decisions around tourism and hospitality, is I want to emphasize the fact that tourism as a whole is an ROI positive investment for a municipality. We have the benefit of having an incredible destination that people actually want to come to. And the more they learn about it, the more they want to come here. And so all we're asking is, let's invest appropriately into raising awareness for the incredible destination that is Charlottesville and bring more people here. That will help the weddings industry, that will help the restaurant industry, that will help the lodging industry, but it will really help everybody that lives here. Because a dollar that is spent by a tourist here that goes away, which you said earlier, is a dollar that as a taxpayer in this municipality, I don't have to fund myself to fund our annual budget. And the drain on our collective resources is significantly lower from visitors than it is from people that live here, that are going to our schools, that are using our police department, that are using our roads. So tourism is a good thing. It's ROI positive. It's generally returns $6 for every dollar invested. We're under-investing today, and we can raise all ships by investing more money in tourism that will drive and help over 6,000 people that make their living through the tourism industry here. And it will grow expenditures, and it will help all the people that live here.
You didn't take my bait of why we're in this situation.
Right.
Why didn't you take it? I totally get it. Why didn't you take it? Let's turn that into a sizzle reel. That was really, really good said. Really well said. We're going to give you the same, sir, Peter Castiglione, anywhere you would like to go.
I just want to say I see very few simple ways to create more revenue for the tourism market and the restaurant industry. And Adam's point is a pretty simple and straightforward way to invest a little bit of money for a fantastic return. It's a no-brainer. I hope everyone agrees, and I hope we can convince council to go down that path. I just want to let everybody out there who's still paying attention.
They are?
I want you to promise me that if you care, that you'll remain involved, that you will ask city council.
The whole premise of this show.
I just want people to be aware of what's happening when it comes to these budgets every year, and to try to put forward how dangerous and caustic and aggro these tax increases can be.
Generational impact.
Long term, 5 years from now, where's the debt ceiling going to be? Like, where are we going to be? If we start growing the tourism industry, we put some money in the CV, we're going to slowly build. we have not been on a collective long-term path in quite a while. And I think it's time that we start heading that direction. And I think that starts with good information, transparency, and accountability.
Love it. That's a sizzle reel, H. So the whole premise of the program, one of the premises is to get as much knowledge as possible out into the ecosystem, because if we put more knowledge out in the ecosystem, you can make more informed decisions. Pretty simple. The other premise of the program is to do the best for Charlottesville, Virginia. Our tagline at I Love CVille is the best of Charlottesville, Virginia. One of the other premises of this program is to help change the conversation of Charlottesville and Central Virginia. We're trying to do our parts. You got some merch you want to show us? I think we need to show it.
End up by giving you guys some presents here.
Ooh.
And if the size doesn't work, I'll get the right size.
Do you have a schmedium? I'm a schmedium.
So there's a new brand for our area.
I love it.
We also have a slightly modified one for folks in the county that want to give a little more shout out to the county. As I said, I'll get different sizes if that works for you.
Yeah, Adam, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
You bet.
What a good
And maybe a
guy.
hat. You want a hat, Peter?
Oh, well, yeah. Anything to
I don't do
anything to
hats.
keep my bulb being warm. You
I
bet.
like my
All right.
Hey, you're looking good, dude.
That's good.
Peter Castiglione
Appreciate you
does
representing.
look good. Yeah, it looks good. Thank you, guys. A couple things we want to get out before we close. I appreciate the fellas' time. We spent 90 minutes here doing this together. It's felt like 25 or 30. These guys did phenomenal work. The June 11th primary will determine 3 seats on City Council. It is not a presidential election year, so oftentimes engagement is at a low when it's not a presidential election year. I highly encourage you to get involved with the June 11th primary. The 3 seats on council, those 3 seats represent a majority. There's 5 seats on council. 3 seats represent a majority. Get involved. Vote. Understand who is running. Learn their platform. We featured many of them on this program. If you don't know, go to ilovecville.com and look at the archived interviews. Perhaps you want to support folks that are entrepreneurially focused. That's all I'm going to say. 3 seats up for grabs, June 11th primary. I'm going to close. Harris Tolber, you know what? I try to push this guy out of his comfort zone, kind of like what you've done with Johnson at Maya. And one of the ways I do this is by giving him an opportunity to chat and see what he's learned from the show. So Harris Tolber, Western Albemarle graduate, James Madison University graduate, team player. What have you learned today on the I Love CVille show?
Jerry, you know, I'm not the most informed person on a lot of the conversation that was taking place today, so it was extremely enlightening for me to hear some of these things. Particularly, one thing that Adam said a lot was that he mentioned the 6-to-1 return on investment in tourism, and just from my perspective, which is the average citizen, if you can't get on board with a 6-to-1 return on investment, like, what are you going to get on board with? Because I mean, that sounds like a win-win. People come into the community, spend their money, and get out. The other thing that I want to comment on is something that Jerry was talking about, and that we've talked about on the show a lot, is that it's amazing to me how one policy decision can turn so many cogs in the wheel. And I know that these two gentlemen know how that works a lot more than I do, but we were talking about the regressive meals tax and how a higher bill affects how affordable our downtown mall is, which is something we've talked a lot about on the program with candidates we've had on the show, and how that can in turn affect who can afford these more expensive meals. And suddenly, when community members revert to having to buy less expensive meals, a lot of times that translates into health, the health of our community. So it's amazing how one spin of the wheel can affect so many cogs in the wheel.
That's great.
23-year-old.
He was listening. Wasn't he?
I know. Harris Tolber, my boy. 23 right there. JMU and Western Albemarle did you right. James Watson says, Peter, thank you for spreading the knowledge. Jojo Robertson said, great show. I have learned so much. This show will be archived on ilovecville.com. So if you don't want to watch in Facebook format, it is easier to watch on ilovecville.com, including a podcast situation. He is Adam Healey. I salute him. He undoubtedly has provided a civic duty to Charlottesville and Central Virginia with changing the brand and the conversation, taking us into 2019 from the dark ages. He did not have to do that. He is an entrepreneur, and he could certainly have pursued perhaps more ROI for himself personally, launching a business as opposed to helping Charlottesville, so I thank you for that. Peter Castiglione is a courageous, well-informed, knowledgeable individual. He has given us 90 minutes of his time, now 92 minutes of his time, to help get knowledge out there. And he's willing to go toe-to-toe with folks that a lot of times other people will not. What I ask of you is you support Maya Restaurant. Go to Maya Restaurant, have a cocktail with Ted Norris. Go to Maya Restaurant, enjoy Christian Kelly and his team's food, or consider them from a rehearsal dinner or wedding type standpoint. Have a couple drinks on the outside patio and do some people watching. It's pretty freaking awesome. I'm going to be back on air here in 57 minutes with the Caring for Creature Show. My name is Jerry Miller for Harris Tolber, Judah Wickhauer, and Lauren Linsky. We close the program the same way every time. Please, Charlottesville, Virginia, give more than you take. And please embody the golden rule. We'll see you in 57 minutes, guys. So I thought that went extremely well. So I appreciate you. It was awesome. Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate you.
Done,
Great.
It was fun.
Yeah, it's great. It was fun.
Good.
We did 93 minutes. We're gonna syndicate this for 30 days.
I only have a small and a medium, but I'm got more on the way, so I'll come find you guys.
That's cool. My daughter.
Okay,
Is that a medium?
great. That's a small too, but
I'll take the small for my
Okay.
little one.
There you go. There you go.
Okay.
That's a small.
there's a small too.
Put this one
You want this medium?
Yeah, I'll take the
Medium. And I will bring more around. And that was awesome.
That's cool. Yeah. Thanks, man.
Peter, good work.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.